You turn a dial and fire appears. It takes less than a second, you don't think about it. You boil water, you fry an egg, you warm your hands, and you move on with your day. But that small flame is the most important thing that ever happened to your species. For most of the last 2 million years, controlling fire was the single line that separated your ancestors from every other animal on Earth. Take it away, and you lose almost everything that makes you human. Your big brain, your small teeth, your long, slow childhood, even the shape of your face. So here is a question worth sitting with. What if your ancestors had never tamed fire at all? Let's follow that thread, because the answer is far stranger than simply freezing in the dark. Start with how old fire really is. In a cave called Wonderwerk, in the northern Cape of South Africa, archaeologists found burned bone and plant ash buried deep inside the rock, far from any opening where a passing wildfire could have reached. Two researchers, Francesco Berna and Michael Chazen, dated those ashes to roughly 1 million years ago. That means a human ancestor, not even our own species yet, was already sitting beside a controlled fire, inside a cave, 1 million years before you were born. That is the deep root, now follow it upward. In northern Israel, at a waterlogged site called Jesher Benat Yaakov, the archaeologist Nama Goraninbar uncovered tiny clusters of burned seeds and wood, around 790,000 years old. The burning wasn't scattered at random across the ground. It clustered in the same spots, again and again. To an archaeologist, a repeated burn spot like that is a hearth, which simply means a fireplace people kept coming back to. A kept fire means intention, someone was tending it. And then, much closer to our own time, at Kesem Cave near Tel Aviv, the researchers Ran Barkai and Avi Gopher found a single central hearth that was used over and over for hundreds of thousands of years. People gathered around it. They cooked there, they sharpened their tools there. The fire had become the center of the home. So fire is ancient, and it was cared for. But why would losing it unravel you so completely? Why not just a colder, darker version of the same human life? For that, you need a Harvard primatologist named Richard Wrangham. A primatologist is a scientist who studies apes and monkeys. In 2009, Wrangham published a book with a simple, radical title: Catching Fire. His argument was this: your ancestors did not only use fire for warmth and safety. They used fire to cook. And cooking, he argued, is the reason you exist in your current form at all. Here is the logic. Raw food is brutal, slow work. A chimpanzee, your close cousin, spends roughly 6 hours of every single day just chewing. 6 hours. Their food is tough, stringy, and low in usable energy, so their bodies need an enormous gut to slowly break it all down. Now cook that same food. Heat unfolds the proteins and bursts the starches. It softens the fibers and kills the bacteria. Cooked food is, in a real sense, partly digested before it ever touches your mouth. You pull far more energy out of it, far faster, with far less effort from your jaw and your stomach. Another Harvard researcher, Rachel Carmody, tested exactly this. She fed mice raw food and cooked food and carefully measured the difference. The animals eating cooked food gained more weight from the very same ingredients. The number of calories printed on the label was identical. The number of calories the body could actually absorb was not. Cooking changes that hidden second number, and that hidden number is everything. So picture the trade your ancestors quietly made. Let's reconstruct a single evening, roughly 400,000 years ago. The sun is dropping low and orange. A small band of early humans crouches around a low fire on a patch of bare earth. A child pokes the embers with a stick. The day's hunt was small. A few roots clawed out of the dirt. Some meat off a scavenged carcass, tough and gray and nearly impossible to chew raw. They lay the meat across the hot stones at the edge of the flames. The fat begins to hiss. The smell drifts out into the dark. And in 20 minutes, something that would have meant hours of grinding teeth becomes soft, warm, and easy to swallow. They eat in a fraction of the time it should take. They are fed before full dark, and warm and safe. The fire holds the leopards back at the edge of the light, where their eyes glow and they do not come closer. And because dinner no longer swallows the entire evening, there is suddenly something new in the day. Time, open time. Time to sit, time to talk. Time to stare into the flames and think. Now take that fire away. Watch the whole evening collapse. The meat stays raw and stringy, the roots stay hard as wood. Your ancestors are dragged straight back to the chimpanzee schedule, chewing for hours every day just to stay alive. And here is where the story turns strange. Because the consequence isn't only hunger and cold. The real consequence is a smaller brain. This is the part almost nobody hears. Your brain is absurdly expensive to run. It is only about 2% of your body weight, yet it burns roughly 20% of your energy, even while you sleep. In 1995, two scientists, Leslie Aiello and Peter Wheeler, gave this problem a name. The expensive tissue hypothesis. The idea is simple. You cannot just grow a giant, hungry brain for free. To pay for it, something else in the body has to shrink. And in humans, the thing that shrank was the gut. Your intestines are far smaller than a great ape's. You traded a huge digestive system for a huge thinking one. But you could only afford that trade because cooking had already taken over the gut's old job, doing it outside the body, in the fire. The flame became a stomach that lived outside of you. A neuroscientist named Susanna Herculano Husel pushed this even harder. She physically counted the number of neurons, the tiny wiring cells of the brain, in primate after primate. Then she ran a brutal piece of math. An ape that eats only raw food, she argued, simply cannot find and chew enough hours in a day to power a brain as large as yours. A raw-fed creature your size would have to eat for more than 9 hours every day to feed a human-sized brain. There are not enough waking hours in a day to do it. The numbers do not close. So in the world where fire never comes, your brain slams into a ceiling. It cannot grow past it. There is no spare energy to pay for the expansion. And a smaller brain shrinks everything that comes after it. No complex language, the kind of rich, layered speech that only a hungry, oversized brain can run. No clothing sewn for the cold. No long protected childhood, where a young human's brain keeps growing for years after birth, soaking up everything the group already knows. No paintings like the horses and lions at Wonderwerk Cave in France, where someone once stood in total darkness, lifted a burning torch, and imagined an animal onto bare stone. Notice that detail. Even the art needed the fire. Without a flame in your hand, the deepest caves stay black forever, and no one ever paints in them. Your entire story folds back down into the body of a clever ape. Still alive, perhaps. But not you, not even close to you. And there is one more thing the fire gave you, beyond food and warmth and light. It gave you each other. An anthropologist named Polly Wiesner spent years living with the Jew/Honsi people of the Kalahari Desert, listening to how they actually talk. She noticed something remarkable. Conversation in the daytime was mostly practical. Plans, complaints, who did what, small arguments. But conversation by firelight after dark was different. Around 80% of it was stories. Tales of distant people, of spirits, of the dead and the far away. The day was for managing life. The night by the fire was for imagining beyond it. So the fire didn't just feed your brain. It gave your brain a stage. A warm circle of light where myth, memory, and imagination could finally be spoken aloud. Take away the fire, and you take away the campfire story itself, the oldest classroom your species ever built. What would you even be without the stories told to you in the dark? Here is the reframe that ties all of it together. Fire was never just a tool you picked up. Fire became an organ. A second stomach that lived outside your body and broke your food down before you swallowed it. A portable sun that turned the terrifying night into a place you could live in, instead of merely survive. It handed your ancestors two things no other animal had ever held in such quantity. Spare time and spare energy. And your species poured both of them, relentlessly, straight into the brain. Now look down at your own evening. You almost never see a wild, open flame anymore. But the fire didn't vanish. It moved, it hid inside the walls. It became the blue ring on your stove, the glowing coil in your oven, the spark in a power station 100 miles away that heats the water for your tea. You are still living off the very same trick your ancestors caught a million years ago. Every cooked meal you have ever eaten is a small inheritance handed down from a hearth that is hundreds of thousands of years deep. The reason you can read these words, follow this thought, even feel bored by it, the reason you have a brain with enough spare room to ask a question like, what if at all, is that long before you existed, someone kept a flame alive through the night and refused to let it die. You did not tame fire. Fire made you. So tonight, when you turn a dial and fire appears in less than a second, let your eyes rest on it a moment longer than usual. That small, ordinary flame is the oldest part of you.